Today, we have two stories titled My Husband's Weird Obsession with Recording Me Asleep and My Wife's Obsession with Crawling Under the Bed by David Hollow. The link to the stories are in the description below. Please enjoy. Things would never be the same after a random fateful Tuesday in the fall. I used to believe having a child was what made life whole, like finally finding something you didn't know you were missing. Now it feels more like learning I was never allowed to want it in the first place. I was so wrong. My husband and I have tried many ways to conceive a child. As embarrassing as it is to admit, it took us years. Yes, there were fights, heated arguments, one of us subtly throwing blame onto the other, pouring gasoline into an already chaotic flame. But no matter what, we always stayed together. It was hard on both of us, yes, but we had to try. Even if trying meant everything, we did it. We were on the same boat facing the same storm. The storm was our God, and we pleaded for mercy, to atone for our guilt and sins. We only wanted to bring light to this world, into our darkened world. And then, one day, the storm granted us our prayers. I remember staring one morning at the test for longer than I should have, not because I didn't understand it, but because I was afraid that if I looked away, it would stop being real. 2 lines, faint at first, then certain. I was positive that I wasn't in a dream. For a moment, I didn't even breathe. Just sat there holding it like it might vanish if I handled it wrong. And then I cried. Not the kind of crying I'd grown used to. The quiet kind that comes from disappointment settling into your bones over and over until it feels normal. This was different. It came out of me without permission, something sharp and overwhelming and unfamiliar, like joy I'd forgotten how to recognize. Relief, disbelief, something that made my hands shake as I kept touching my face just to make sure I was still here, still feeling it. For the first time in years, I wasn't mourning something I had lost or something I was never going to have. I felt like I had been given something instead, something real, a blessing. And I didn't know yet how quickly it could all be taken away. Marcus was the happiest I had seen him in years, even through all the small practiced smiles he wore over time to make me believe things were fine between us. I always knew there was hurt sitting beneath them, quiet, shared, unspoken. But this time, it was different. This wasn't something he put on for me. It was real, unguarded, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in so long. I almost forgot it belonged to him at all. The same one I fell in love with all those years ago, back when he asked me to the prom like the world hadn't yet had a chance to break either of us. I wish those first 8 weeks could last a lifetime. The break-in happened on a Tuesday. I remember that detail because Tuesdays used to mean nothing. Now they feel like something that split our lives in half. He was at work when it happened. I was alone in the house, folding laundry, when the back door gave way. I don't like remembering the details, so I won't stay there long. Only that I survived it, and that survival came with consequences that did not leave cleanly. The man was caught within days, judged within months, and buried under years that were supposed to feel like justice, but no sentence could ever fill that space he left behind. Not in the house, not within me, especially not after the miscarriage. I felt hollow, as if something essential had been quietly removed from me without trace or explanation. The light in my life no longer flickered or faded. It simply ceased, reduced to a memory of warmth that once existed but could not be reached again. I still don't know if the doctors and therapists chose the right words for it. Stress, trauma, shock. They said them gently, like language could soften something that already broke clean through bone. My husband didn't speak much after that. He didn't speak at all. He was a man of action. Days after, the cameras were installed. At first, Marcus placed them outside, angled toward the street and driveway. Then came the backyard. But when winter arrived, more followed, and soon they were no longer watching the world beyond the house, but the inside of it instead. It felt invasive at first, but I never questioned it, for I thought this was his way of grieving, and why would I stop him? We were both hurting, deeply. After the intruder was sentenced and the cameras were set in place, we never tried again to have a child. It wasn't that I closed the door on it, not at first. Marcus just stopped touching me. Not in any dramatic or cruel way. There was no final argument, no line drawn in the sand, only distance that grew so quietly, I almost convinced myself it was normal. No kisses, no lingering hands, not even the simple comfort of a hug. And I told myself it was the trauma, that he was being careful with me, that something in me might still be too fragile to hold. But months passed, and we never spoke about it. Not about trying again, not about what our future was supposed to look like, not even about whether there was still a future we were building together. We just existed in the same space, two separate lives moving through the same rooms. We were pods floating in an empty home that no longer knew how to hold warmth. Till one day, he came home with that slight smile. It was ever so noticeable, but living together all those years, I knew something had deterred him away from his sorrow. We finally spoke at dinner. Not the small chatter that we had accustomed during the grueling months, but we were ourselves finally. His eyes were bright, and his humor I came to love so much returned in fury. Marcus was back. We were back. We laughed, we ate and drank. And after that night, we shared beds once again. Weeks passed. Things seemed to go back to normal, though normal still had mourning still attached to it. I became ever so ill. One morning, I noticed the weight beneath my eyes, a heaviness I couldn't explain but could no longer ignore. By the next day, it had deepened into an exhaustion so absolute, it felt as though I hadn't slept in days, even though I knew I had drifted in and out of dreams like anyone else. Then it turned into weakness, the kind that doesn't arrive all at once, but seeps in quietly until you can no longer pretend it isn't there. Simple things become difficult in ways they never should have. Vacuuming would leave me breathless, standing in the middle of a task I used to finish without thought, wondering why my body felt like it no longer belonged to me. Hours slipped away in a haze of fatigue, and even the smallest responsibilities of the house began to feel like climbing something steep and endless. Some days Marcus would come home to find me already gone from consciousness, collapsed on the bed or curled into the couch as if I had simply run out of strength mid-moment. Once, I remembered waking up on the living room floor, the ceiling above me slightly out of focus, as though I had fallen out of my own life and landed somewhere I wasn't meant to be. Marcus saw this from the living room camera and rushed home from work. The doctors called it stress, exhaustion, emotional strain. They ran tests, asked questions I struggled to answer, and noted how much weight I had lost without even realizing it. One specialist spoke gently, carefully, about how the changes in my body weren't healthy, not only for me, but for something I no longer knew how to hold onto in conversation, a future child. A possibility quietly slipping further out of reach with every passing appointment. I tried to correct it. I made sure I ate enough, slept enough, followed every instruction as if discipline alone could reverse whatever was happening to me. But the days blurred into weeks, and with them came a growing dread whenever I caught my reflection. The quiet realization that I was beginning to resemble something hollowed out from the inside, a skeleton only loosely remembering the shape of my skin. Marcus eventually pleaded with his boss to work from home, and his request was granted. He took care of me with a tenderness I hadn't felt in a long time, the kind that felt almost familiar, like something we had once been before the distance set in. He cooked meals, stayed beside me through endless hours of television, and for a while, it almost felt like we were finding our way back to each other again. We waited together for the hospital to call with answers, for some explanation for the sharp decline in my health, for something that could give shape to what was happening to me. In the meantime, we grew closer once more, as if proximity alone could mend what time and silence had already begun to erode. And I told myself that even if the worst was still to come, we had already survived something worse before. One night, I woke feeling drowsier than ever. I turned to meet a sleeping Marcus, but what lay beside me was emptiness. Standing from the bed, something that should have been as effortless as breathing now took everything I had. I found Marcus in the study. He had fallen asleep at his desk, slumped slightly forward in the chair, one hand still resting near the mouse, as if he had only just given in to exhaustion. The soft glow of the monitor lit the side of his face, catching the faint lines of the stress that even sleep didn't fully smooth away. For a moment, I just stood there watching him, something warm and familiar stirring in my chest despite everything. Quietly, I took a blanket from the nearby sofa and draped it over his shoulders. He didn't wake. He only shifted slightly, settling deeper into sleep. I told myself he must have been working late again, trying to keep up with everything while I struggled through my own days. It made sense. It always made sense with Marcus. But as I turned to leave, my eyes caught the laptop screen. It was still open, paused but not idle. The bedroom camera feed. I hesitated, then stepped closer, drawn in by something I couldn't name. The angle was fixed on her bed, the same perspective I had seen in passing when Marcus set the cameras up, the same quiet surveillance I had grown used to knowing existed, but never fully thought about. At first, nothing was happening, just stillness, the empty room, the bed untouched. Then I saw it, a shift beneath the mattress. Subtle at first, almost easy to dismiss as my eyes adjusted to the low light. But then it came again, clearer this time. A slow, deliberate movement under the bed frame, something pressing upward from the darkness beneath. I leaned in without thinking, my breath catching as I watched the footage continue. The shape moved again, not random, not accidental, intentional. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have, the glow of the monitor still spilling across Marcus's sleeping form behind me. The footage kept playing in silence, the bedroom frozen in that familiar angle, the bed, the dark space beneath it, the subtle suggestion of movement that my mind refused to stop replaying. At first, I told myself it was nothing, a distortion, a trick of tired eyes, something the camera was doing wrong. But then it moved again. Not randomly, not faintly, deliberately. Something shifted under the bed as if it knew it was being watched. My breath caught before I even realized I had stepped back. The thought came before fear had time to settle properly. Someone was in our house again, or had been, or still was. My hand moved without hesitation after that. I didn't remember opening the drawer, only the weight of the knife in my palm a moment later, cold and certain, grounding me in something real. My pulse hammered louder as I glanced once towards Marcus, still asleep, still unaware, before turning toward the hallway. Every instinct I had narrowed into a single simple assumption. There was an intruder under our bed, and I wasn't going to be a victim again. When I finally spoke, my voice came out smaller than I expected. "Marcus?" He stirred behind me, not startled, not confused, just aware, like I had interrupted something he had already understood. I turned slowly, still half facing the bedroom feed glowing on the laptop behind me. "What is that?" I asked. He didn't look at the screen. He didn't need to. "It's ours," he said simply. My stomach tightened. "That's not an answer." He stood then, carefully, like he was approaching something fragile. Not me, but the idea forming between us. "You're still not well," he said gently. "You're just not seeing it properly." "I am seeing it," I snapped. "It's under our bed, Marcus. There is someone under our bed." A pause. Then, almost softly, like I was the one misunderstanding something obvious. "It's our child." The words didn't land immediately. My mind refused them at first, rejecting them the way the body rejects something foreign. But then the weight of them settled, heavy and wrong. "That thing is not my child?" His expression didn't change, only softened further, like pity. "We lost one before," he said. "We won't lose this one." And then I heard it, from the bedroom, a sound so small it barely registered as sound at all. A trembling, a broken, wet vibration that didn't belong to anything I could name comfortably. I moved before I thought better of it. Marcus followed behind me, unhurried, almost patient. The bedroom felt colder than I remembered. The bed was untouched at first glance, still, ordinary, until it wasn't. A slow shift beneath the frame, a subtle pressing against the floorboards, something aware of us now, no longer hidden in sleep or silence. Then it emerged, not fully, not yet, but enough. Too many jointed limbs folded awkwardly against itself. A soft, pale body that didn't hold shape the way anything living should. It twitched when it saw me, not like fear, but recognition, like memory. And then it made a sound again, that same broken vibration. But this time, I understood what it was trying to do. It was crying. Not in a way that belonged to anything human. Not tears, not sobbing. Just a thin, impossible distortion of distress, as if emotion itself had been translated incorrectly into something insectile. My legs nearly gave out. "That," I whispered. "What is that?" Marcus stepped behind me and shook his head. "Honey," he said softly, "it's our child." I turned on him fully now. "What is wrong with you?" His eyes didn't leave the thing under the bed. "It gets weaker when you're away from it," he said. "It needs its mother." My breath caught, and then I understood, not all at once, but pieces I didn't want fitting together. The exhaustion, the weight in my body, the hollow mornings, the emptiness I kept blaming on illness. The creature shifted again, slower now, as if responding to my realization, as if I knew I finally saw it clearly. Marcus knelt beside the bed, not afraid, almost proud. "Look at it," he said gently. "Of course, it knows you." I backed away. "No," I said, but it didn't sound convincing anymore, not even to me. The creature made another sound, smaller this time, less like distress, more like waiting. Marcus smiled faintly. "It's been growing," he said. "It just needed time." I looked at it again, really looked, and something in me stopped resisting the shape of the truth entirely. Not acceptance, a surrender to inevitability I didn't have the strength to argue with anymore. Marcus turned to me, voice softening into something almost tender. "We can finally be a family," he said with tears in his eyes. The creature shifted beneath the bed, still watching. Clicking chatter erupted from its mandibles, and I knew slowly, my hands trembling as they lowered toward the floor, because there was nothing left in me that felt strong enough to refuse what had already decided it belonged here. "What should we name our child?" And I accepted it, because I was finally the mother I had spent my whole life waiting to become. Things would never be the same after that Tuesday in the fall. I remembered that day more clearly than I remembered most of my life. Funny how the mind works that way. It doesn't hold onto the good as tightly as it does to the things that break you. But before that, before everything split into something unrecognizable, there was us. We met in high school. Nothing dramatic. No love at first sight. No grand moment that made the world stop. Just a class assignment. We were paired together for a project neither of us cared about. And somehow, through that, we started talking. Really talking. I learned how she laughed before she tried to hide it. She learned how I pretended not to care about things I cared about too much. We didn't fall in love all at once. It happened slowly, quietly, the way things that last usually do. And I always knew, even back then, that I wanted a life with her. A real one. A home. A family. Children. That part didn't come as easy as we thought it would. We tried for years, longer than I ever admitted out loud. There were moments where we didn't speak, not because we didn't love each other, but because there was nothing left to say that didn't sound like blame. It creeps in like that, quiet at first, then sharper over time. Not enough to break us, but enough to leave marks. Still, we stayed. We always stayed. Because no matter how hard it got, she was still the person I wanted beside me when everything settled. And then, one day, it worked. I don't think I've ever seen her cry like that before. Not from pain, not from disappointment, from something else, something pure. I thought, finally, things were going to be all right. Oh, how naive I was. The break-in happened on a Tuesday. I wasn't home. That's the part that never leaves me. I wasn't there to protect her. By the time I got back, it was already over. The damage had been done in ways no one could really explain properly. The police told me to stay calm, told me they'd handle it. I didn't want them to handle it. I wanted to. There's that movie, the one where the man hunts down the people who take everything from him. Slow, brutal, personal. For a few days, I understood that man more than I should have. I went looking, not thinking clearly, not thinking at all, really. But the police found him first, caught him, processed him, buried him in years that were supposed to mean something. It didn't. Nothing did after that. When we lost our world, something in her changed. Not loudly. She became distant from herself. Like she was still there, but not fully present inside her own body. I told myself it was grief, trauma, something that would pass with time if I stayed close enough, if I took care of her the way I was supposed to. So I did what I could. I installed cameras around the house. At first, it was for protection. After what happened, I wasn't taking chances again. Every entrance, every angle, every blind spot covered. Then I added more, inside. Not because I didn't trust her, because I didn't trust the world anymore. That's when I started noticing things. At night, she would leave the bed. Not every night, not at first. Just sometimes. Slow movements, quiet, like she didn't want to wake me. I thought she was sleepwalking. Grief does strange things to people. I didn't question it. Not until I heard the sound. It woke me one night. A soft, rhythmic noise. Wet. Almost familiar. Like someone drinking from a bottle. Or sucking on the last bit of something frozen, pulling it through slowly. I sat there in the dark, listening, trying to convince myself it was something simple. Pipes, the house settling. But it kept going, steady, deliberate, and it was coming from below. I checked the cameras the next morning. That's when I saw her, kneeling beside the bed, then lowering herself, disappearing beneath it. I should have said something. I should have stopped it, but I didn't. Because when she came back up, she looked at ease, not happier, but she was fulfilled within herself. Then she started getting weaker. At first, I thought it was everything catching up to her. The trauma, the loss, the stress. But it didn't stop. She grew thinner, extremely pale. Some days I would come home and find her passed out, her body giving in before she could even make it to bed. Once, she collapsed in the living room. I rushed home when I saw it on the camera. I thought I was losing her, as if life couldn't torment me enough. We visited specialists, nutritionists, all sorts of stuff. I listened to everything they told me, learned how to cook better meals, made sure she ate. I stayed home from work, watched over her, took care of her, loved her the only way I knew how, and nothing changed. She kept fading. The night everything finally made sense, I fell asleep in the office. I don't remember when, just that I woke up suddenly, something pulling me out of it. That same feeling, the one I got sometimes at night, like my body doesn't fully belong to me, like I'm moving through something thicker than air. I looked at the monitor. The bed was empty. I already knew where she was. The house was silent as I walked down the hallway, but that sound was there again. That wet, hollow rhythm. Closer now, clearer. I pushed the door open, and for a moment, I didn't understand what I was seeing. She was kneeling on the floor, holding something, carefully, gently, like it was fragile. And it was, in its own way. It was wrong in every sense of my mind could form. Too many limbs, thin, twitching, not shaped for this world. Its body pulsed faintly, like it didn't fully understand how to exist yet. And from it, extended something. A thin, feeding appendage, embedded in her neck, drawing from her slowly. That was the sound. I should have reacted, should have pulled her away, should have done anything other than stand there. But I didn't, because she wasn't fighting it. She was holding it, comforting it. It made a noise, small, broken, not human, but not empty either. And something in me shifted. Not fear, but recognition. She looked at me then, not ashamed, not fear, just aware. And I realized something I hadn't let myself think until that moment. We didn't lose everything. Something had stayed. Something had needed her. Needed us. What should we name our child? I knew I wasn't losing her anymore. We finally can be a family, and I can be the father I had always wanted to be.